My name is Joanne McCoy. I was born in Bayfield in my parents' home on May 30th, 1936. The house is still standing and it's across the river on 160B on the west side of town. I lived there for the first several years of my life. My parents were Forrest and Lily Hickman. They moved to the country in the early 1920s. And this was a house that Daddy had built, and we lived there for quite a few years. I grew up here. I went to the old yellow schoolhouse for all but a year and a half of my grade school years. And that year and a half I went to the Moss School. Then I came back, finished out the old yellow schoolhouse, went to high school here. Every year, of course, the seniors had their prom. It was a junior-senior thing because we didn't have too many kids. But it was very nice. We always had the grand march, the girls dressed up, and we had a nice banquet. Then I left to go in 1954, to go to Denver to go to school. It just wasn't my thing. So I quit school in Denver and moved into an apartment and got a job. But one thing that I have always missed and think about occasionally, when I was a child, actually up through my grade school years, we shopped at the store, the Bayfield grocery store on Pine and Mill Street. It was the only general store around. They had mostly groceries, but some hardware goods, some clothing, just a general store. And this was in the 40s and 50s. And the Indians would come to town, the Ute Indians. They didn't have cars, so they would come to town in their wagons, horse-drawn wagons, and they would line up on the south side of Mill Street when they went in to shop. And the ladies always had the most beautiful outfits on, the velvet skirts and the satin blouses with the concho belts and great huge turquoise bracelets and necklaces. When they had their hair pulled back in the Indian style, kind of a double bun. They always looked so nice, and I just stood and stared at them. I remember above Stock's garage, the boys used to play basketball up there. Actually, the girls did too, because we didn't have a gym when I was just, grade school. And we would have our dances up there. Or whoever would have a dance up there. I remember my parents going to the dance, and all of the kids would be on benches around the side of the building. We'd all go to sleep, and I can remember Dad picking us up, taking us down to the car and putting us in the back seat of the car, sound asleep, and then we'd drive home at 2 o'clock in the morning. That was something that I missed when I came back. They don't have that type thing anymore. And I always thought those, especially the Christmas and the Thanksgiving dances, they were really looked forward to. And if I recall correctly, after our prom, it may have turned into a public dance too. I'm not too sure about that. I have 2 or 3 memories during the war. My brother joined the Army. He didn't have to go fight in the war. He became an MP at Fort Bragg. But the Boys Market took one of their display windows and filled it with all of the pictures of the guys who had gone to war. And I always worried about my brother because I was kind of an admirer of his. But he came back safely since he didn't go away. And we had scrap iron drives. And there were several of them during the war. So, we'd all go all over our ranch or our farm and find all kinds of iron, any kind of iron that we could, and bring it all to the school. And the Army or somebody would come by and pick it up. And there were several of those. And then I remember when President Roosevelt died, the whole school, I think it was the entire school, I know it was all of the grade school and possibly the high school, had to stand to attention on the steps of the high school and salute the flag while I think they played the national anthem, or else we just had a moment of silence. And then we all went back to school. One day, we were all just home. It must have been a weekend or something. We were at home, and a plane started circling And planes in those days were just little dinky things that didn't fly very high, and it was a single-seater type plane with just a propeller in the front. And it started circling over the town, and it was getting lower and lower, and we were all looking around, at least my family was, I'm assuming everybody was. And pretty soon it landed in our pasture in back of the barn. And the pilot got out. He had a little tight boiled leather helmet on, and his jacket was kind of a tight leather jacket. And he had run out of gas. So he came over and talked to my father, and I stood there. I don't remember anybody else being there, but I'm sure that people did come. And Daddy sent someone to go get gas for him, and they just stood by the plane and talked and chatted a bit. They came with the gas, and the pilot filled his gas tank up, and then he flew away. He was on his way to some base somewhere. He was an Army person, and our Air Force, whatever. And he flew away. We never heard any more about him, but as soon as he got his gas tank filled, he took off.